These are the monks of Shaolin, known for their incredible kung fu and seemingly supernormal feats of strength. They live and train at the Shaolin Temple, which is a 1,500-year-old Buddhist temple in Henan Province, China, and the birthplace of Zen Buddhism, as well as the temple's signature kung fu styles. And this is Shi Yongxin. He served as the abbot of the Shaolin Temple since 1999. He has come to be known affectionately as the CEO monk. He was responsible for the commercialization of the Shaolin Temple. Like, this guy literally has a master's in business administration. And he stated in an interview with the Global Times that he was operating over 40 companies overseas, capitalizing on the Shaolin Temple's reputation across the world to found multiple cultural centers and sell products. And in China, he even tried to put the Shaolin trademark on instant noodles. That request was turned down by a court in Beijing. Although he couldn't sell Shaolin noodles, it seems the business empire kept on growing, and Shi Yongxin was often seen traveling across the world by plane, iPhone in hand, and he met with world leaders like Queen Elizabeth II, the Pope, even Putin, as well as apparently Apple's Tim Cook. But this year, Shi Yongxin's world came crashing down when the Shaolin Temple revealed he was under investigation for embezzling temple funds and breaking the Buddhist precepts by having indecent relationships with multiple women and fathering children with them. This is the crazy story of Shi Yongxin, the CEO monk. So when Shi Yongxin became the abbot of the Shaolin Temple in 1999, he realized something. Shaolin had something called cultural capital. The reputation of the temple and its kung fu styles had been built up over 1,500 years of Chinese history, and then exported to the West through hundreds of movies, and then further promoted in the West by performing artists.
Here comes my Shaolin style. Shaolin, shout it around from its blood.
While some people in the West may not know what Shaolin is, I don't think even the Red Hot Chili Peppers know what it is, but everyone has, at a minimum, heard the name. And a large number of people in the West are very interested in Shaolin Kung Fu. Thus, Shi Yongxin saw an opportunity, and he established Shaolin cultural centers across the world. He told Xinhua news agency, if China can import Disney resorts, why can't other countries import the Shaolin Monastery? The Los Angeles Shaolin Temple Cultural Center is one such example, being under the direct control of the Shaolin Temple in China. It was established in 2007 and now has multiple locations in LA with over 2,000 members. And amusingly, at the time of filming, still has an article singing the praises of Abbott Shi Yongxin on its website. Now, I don't want to go too hard on these guys because many of the people who go to these centers are there just because they love Shaolin Kung Fu or Buddhism or both, and they have no idea what kind of a guy Shi Yongxin is. In addition to overseas initiatives, Shi Yongxin also developed the Shaolin Temple in China, now charging what many see as a very high entrance fee to visit the temple and burn incense. Water is 4 times more expensive inside the temple than outside the gates, and it was even rumored that he wanted to take the Shaolin company public with its shares traded on China's stock market. This ultimately didn't happen though. Now, as all this business development was going on, people started to notice things about Abbot Shi Yongxin. He wasn't like other Buddhist monks, living a simple life, not using any motorized transport, eating simple food, maintaining celibacy. As early as 2009, there were reports of him traveling the world by plane, using an iPhone, accepting lavish gifts from CCP officials like a $125,000 luxury car and a luxury monk's robe where the golden thread used alone cost over $7,000 US. There he is with the certificate of authenticity for the robe. And that reminds me of one of the first tests on their journey that the Tang monk and the Monkey King have to pass in Journey to the West.
师傅，咱们包袱里那件袈裟岂不是件宝物？拿出来给他们看看。
They go to that temple where the abbot is obsessed with luxury monks' robes, and he collects them, and he really wants to see the robe given to the Tang monk by the emperor, and he tries to steal it. It's like literally the same thing right there in a traditional Chinese novel, warning future monks about the dangers of being lured by property. But there is more. There were reports of Shi Yongxin being caught up in a brothel raid in 2011, although they released a statement afterwards saying that apparently he was just blessing these poor prostitutes at the brothel. And then in 2015, there were more reports in the press of him fathering illegitimate children with several mistresses, one of which was in Australia, and embezzling money from the Shaolin Temple for his own gain. Now, at that time, back in 2015, these rumors were denied by Shi Yongxin and the Shaolin Temple, but as of the end of July 2025, Shi Yongxin stepped down as abbot, and the Shaolin Temple finally released a statement admitting he is under investigation by authorities. Shaolin abbot Shi Yongxin is suspected of criminal offenses, embezzling project funds and temple assets, seriously breaking the Buddhist precepts over a long period of time, maintaining improper relationships with multiple women, and fathering illegitimate children. Right now, he is being investigated by several different government departments. We will release more information on this matter at the appropriate time. Then it got really crazy with a report that he tried to flee China to the US and was stopped at Shanghai airport with an entourage of 7 mistresses and 21 children. This was based on a viral post that was supposedly a police press release, and in the press release it actually stated that he had a total of 51 mistresses and 170 children and had transferred over 41 billion US dollars out of the Shaolin Temple. But that post was actually fake. I mean, I could have told you that. And guys, if you're going to make a fake police report, at least make it believable. I mean, 41 billion US dollars, he would be one of the richest people in the world. And 51 mistresses and 170 children? How did he have time for all that? Is this guy in Nexium or something? Anyway, none of that changes that the actual facts are multiple mistresses, several children, and embezzlement of temple funds, all by a guy who is supposed to be celibate and have no possessions. But if this was going on for so many years, like the Shaolin Temple indicated in their press release, why has Shi Yongxin only been investigated now? And why has the Shaolin Temple only just admitted it? To answer that question, I talked to someone who I knew would have a good understanding of how things work in China, David Zhang from China Insider. Hey David, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So what exactly is Shi Yongxin's situation right now?
So Shi Yongxin has been arrested and he's essentially under investigation for corruption. So far, what we don't know is what his current whereabouts are, but we know that in earlier this year, around the Chinese New Year's time, he was put on this house arrest type of being carefully surveilled after he returned from a trip overseas to visit the Pope, or at least in one of the stops to visit the Pope.
Now it seems the accusations against Shi Yongxin have been going on for a long time. I want to understand why he is only just being investigated now and why the Shaolin Temple has only just admitted what has been going on all these years.
So the case with Shi Yongxin is very interesting because he's what's called a commercial or political monk in China. Being the abbot of Shaolin Temple, he was essentially put into charge, or at least the direction he went with was commercializing Shaolin, commercializing Chinese Kung Fu, and in doing so to get a lot of money. Now, the thing with doing business in China is no matter if you're a monk or you're a CEO of a company, you need to work with the Chinese regime or the CCP in order for you to go far into your business, right? We saw the case with Jack Ma. It doesn't matter how big you get. It doesn't matter how much money you make for the party. If you step out of line, things could happen. With Shi Yongxin, it's a little bit different though, because Shi Yongxin for the longest time during his years as the abbot actually went through sort of a ownership change. I say ownership because he's very close with a former top leader that was around the part of the Zhang faction, Jiang Zemin faction, that was around, he retired in 2012. His name is Li Changchun. During the time he was at the Politburo Standing Committee, he was responsible for propaganda and overseeing the propaganda ideology part of the regime. And so he was also from the time that before he was in the propaganda side of things, he was in the province of Henan, which is where Shaolin Temple is situated. So I think the only public information we know of the abbot and a high-level CCP official is the connection between Li Changchun and this abbot. I think Li even called the abbot his old good friend, something like that. So, but the thing is, after 2015, because 2015 was when all of these accusations and allegations against the abbot came out, right? How he was having extramarital affairs with 51 mistresses and all these things, having all these secret children and having all this corruption issues. But in 2015, all of these accusations ended up nowhere. Like, the investigations happened and nothing really came out of it, right? That was also at the height of Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign against the Zhang faction. So what I believe likely happened is that Xi Jinping used this chance to sort of gain the ownership of the abbot, to basically say that, hey, if you stay loyal to me, I can, calm the storm for you. And that's actually through actions, which speaks much louder than words. We saw that happen. Since 2015, Shaolin appeared multiple times on Xi Jinping's Belt and Road infrastructure websites. It's called Silk Road in Chinese, but also it's actually featured as sort of a soft power export, right? You have the Confucius Institute, you have the Shaolin temples, one sort of martial arts and one cultural arts, right? That were exported around the world to try to use that as Chinese soft power. And so it worked. They worked closely with Xi Jinping on this export, this influence machine. And until, of course, in 2025, where speculations of Xi Jinping losing power has been running wild everywhere. And it's just like, 10 years after these allegations should have already concluded into something. But yet in 2025, when things have already been forgotten for a decade, suddenly he gets in trouble for seemingly the same stuff that happened 10 years ago.
Now, David, before you go, what are your predictions for the new abbot? Do you think that he can really live by the Buddhist precepts?
So far, what we know is that he hasn't had the allegations and the accusations leveled against him the same way that had happened with Shi Yongxin.
Thanks very much, David. Now, of course, we wish the new abbot the best of luck and hope that he can rectify the Shaolin Temple, at least to the maximum extent possible living under the CCP. But I think this whole situation represents the problem with a lot of different institutions in China. The Shaolin Temple was closed down during the Cultural Revolution from 1966 to 1967. The monks had to return to secular life, and most of the temple buildings were severely damaged. Only the pagoda forest survived in its original state. So what you see now when you go to the Shaolin Temple is relatively new, recently refurbished in the 80s and 90s. And more recently, Shi Yongxin even installed a toilet block costing $400,000. But my point in saying this is that there was a gap in the transmission of the Shaolin teachings. Some older monks probably passed away in that 10 plus years when the temple was closed, and maybe some of them just didn't return after it reopened. So when the younger monks returned, their understanding of Buddhism was perhaps relatively shallow, and thus the focus has been more on Kung Fu. But even that is questionable as to whether the most authentic Shaolin Kung Fu is actually at Shaolin these days. I don't want to get into that debate here, but you guys can debate that in the comments. But with this focus on martial arts, the CCP has used Shaolin as a soft power tool, luring their abbot with money and power, without really caring about preserving what Shaolin is actually about. And that is just another example of how the CCP has destroyed traditional Chinese culture. All right, guys, that is the video for today. If you liked it, please leave a comment. Do you think this new abbot can manage the temple well? With the change in power dynamic in China, like David said, maybe things will be easier for him. Who knows? And a big thank you to David for coming on the show. Check out his channel, China Insider, on screen in just a moment. And guys, if you want to support us, since it is hard to get a lot of views on cultural content, do consider becoming a member for $4.99 a month. You can get early access to all our videos, and we will make an effort to reply to you when you leave a comment. You can hit the join button down below, and we thank you very much if you do support us. And if you don't want to join as a member, you can still subscribe for free. Subscribe button is down below too. A big thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.